live and direct from the great borough of Manhattan. This is Beneath the Surface podcast. Thank you for joining us. You have entered the realm of nation-time strategic planning. We are the tacticians whose mission it is to do our part in making our people thrive again.
That's right.
I am Miss Eve. This is Moreh, and we're privileged to spark off an important discussion to that end. What's going on, Moreh? How have you been doing in the midst of daylight savings time?
Oh, daylight savings time. It's good to be alive. And whenever we have more light,
Yes.
less people stay in darkness. Let's do it like that.
Trying to do an analogy there.
Right.
I feel you. Well, I'm doing pretty well. Just getting used to, a slight lack of sleep, but it's all good.
Okay.
So let's put on our gear and dive beneath the surface. What is today's topic, Moreh?
Oh my goodness. So are we talking about men having more than one wife? We're talking about multiple relationships. I said I was looking at I was doing my homework. I was looking at our stuff. I was like, she want to talk about this, huh?
Have mercy. Well, I look forward to it, everybody. Stay tuned. So to our listeners, we have a confession to make. There are a lot of questions about polygamy. In fact, you probably noticed that the name of this episode is officially called 20 Questions About, drumroll please, Polygamy.
No.
So 20 questions, right? So This is the deal. We're going to just keep it moving. We're going to do, segment after segment after segment until we reach the 20.
Right.
If you want to hang out with us, we're happy to have you. But you can also feel free to take breaks in between and get back to us. But we're going to dive deep in this one, okay?
You got that much about polygamy, huh?
What? I just have some questions.
20 is not some.
But this is the deal. Like, I think that I am not unlike most people,
right,
for whom polygamy is a foreign concept.
Do you got 20 questions about monogamy?
And not just a foreign concept, but an offensive concept.
All right.
It's like, what? So I think that this is going to be a good one. So let's start it off with this one. Question number one, Moreh.
Oh, okay.
What is polygamy?
So polygamy is the idea that two people can be in a relationship, focusing on a relationship, and either one can have other partners. So that would be polygamy. However, the man that I am, I believe in polygyny, which is the idea that a man can be in a relationship with a woman and only he can have relationships with other women. And then there's also polyandry, where the woman is in a relationship with a man and she's the only one who can have relationships with other men.
Okay. You know what? No.
I
Continue.
can't leave monogamy out. And monogamy is just the idea of a relationship, a man and a woman.
One man, one woman.
Yeah. That nature.
Okay.
Right?
So you just mentioned some things that I could follow up with some additional questions, but some of those questions come up later on in the episode.
20 plus questions about polygamy. Go ahead.
I appreciate that you mentioned polyandry and polygyny all being under the same category as polygamy.
Okay.
Right? So the fact that people are talking about this makes me wonder if people still think that monogamy, which to me is the norm, is natural. So that's question number 2. Is monogamy unnatural?
Well, I would say no, it's not unnatural. Polygyny is a natural progression. So most people don't start off in multiple relationships. You don't just come and you're like, hey, the three of y'all, what do y'all think about being in a relationship with me? Usually you start off with one and then you go to 2, or depending on where you're from and what you believe in, 3, 4, 5, et cetera, et cetera. So monogamy is very much natural. You kind of need, before you walk, you run. If you're going to be in a relationship.
Well, the other way around, probably. Before you run, you walk.
Before you walk. Oh, yeah. Before you run, you walk. Right. Thank you. I said you have to understand how to deal in a relationship. So monogamy is very much natural. I just don't know the practicality of it in any point of our history. And I say that because whether you participated in monogamy or polygyny, everybody will at some point, but because of the ratio of the male species to the female species, eventually something's going to happen. Now, that does not mean that every person will participate in polygyny or polyandry or polygamy, but there will be people who will do it. I think just the idea now is that our current idea of marriage is that if you're not in a monogamous relationship, then you're wrong and you're committing adultery, which then invites the conversation.
Okay, so you just mentioned something about a shift in population, especially with regard to, and I think you're talking about there being fewer men than women at some point. And so a lot of things happen throughout history. You have wars that take place, and of course men participate in those. That decreases the lifespan of men. And men just have a shorter lifespan than women.
It's true.
Things like a variety of things can happen that shift the population in that sense. But my question was, is monogamy unnatural just to the human being? So if we kind of briefly separated ourselves from what could happen in a society, do you think that it is unnatural for a man to have the same wife for his whole life?
Absolutely not. Okay. There are men who their desire is one person. There's some people who can only focus on one person at a time. And that's how God made them. That's their personality. That's their makeup. So there's nothing unnatural about that. I just think that we close ourselves off when we stop and we say everybody has to be like that man, because there are some people who are built differently.
Okay.
And we can admit that we're all built differently. Our psyche, what turns us on, and what we desire to do. There's some people who a woman could look at and she'd say, I'd never marry him. And then there's another person where she could look at and she'd be like, wow, he's with somebody, but I want to be with him also.
Wow.
And that happens, and we see it. I said it's unfortunate, but we well, I don't want to even get into that part of the news.
We'll probably. Oh, you mean the current events? Okay.
Right. But what I'm going to say is that some people are built for it, and some people aren't.
Okay.
So if you're not built for it, then it's unnatural, and then sometimes you may just be right up your alley.
So this brings me to question number 3.
Okay.
Question number 3: why do some people embrace polygyny while rejecting polyandry?
So here's the thing, that comes with our moral standard.
Okay.
You know, you've heard me say this on previous episodes for those who have subscribed to our page. If you haven't subscribed to our page already, please subscribe to Beneath the Surface. Shameless plug, yes. But I'm on the Beneath the Surface platform. This is the thing. You know, you have your relationship. And when you have your relationship, you have a thing where some people can gravitate towards certain things. It's just the way of life. So if you see it for yourself, then yeah, great, it works. But in us viewing our relationships, it becomes, what do you call that? It becomes contradictory.
Okay.
No, you find yourself in conflict when you stop and you say, hey, I'm attracted to this person. I think I want to be with this person. I like being around this person.
Yeah.
And then we can't forget about the fact of who's been talking to you. You're like, why is it that I don't like any of these people, but this one person that I like being with is all right? So now the moral code, right? Okay. So get to why is it accepted for the man and not the woman and stuff like that.
Yeah, it depends on which angle you come from. So
correct. So when you stop and you say, hey, listen, my moral standard says a woman should be faithful to one man, and that for a man to be with multiple women is fine. So that's what the polygyny people, the people who embrace polygyny, that's their quote unquote moral code. Well, that they can not for everybody, because there's some people. So I'm coming from the perspective of being an Israelite.
Yeah.
And what the Holy Scriptures speak. And what the Holy Scriptures speak is that when a woman goes to be with multiple men, that if she's married, she's an adulteress.
If
right?
she's married, okay.
Now, you have other cultures that people that don't believe in any part of the Holy Scriptures, and they will stop and say, no, that's just how we do over here. So it just depends on where you're at, where you can see polyandry in Indian culture, but in any part of the different nations of Africa, you can see polygyny that's widely accepted. But then you can go in other parts of the African nations of Africa within that culture and see that monogamy is also accepted where it is. So I say that because, you know, European and Western culture focused on monogamy, where I'm of the belief that before we landed on these shores, that polygyny was a much more greater accepted practice, and polyandry actually never was even a thought.
So the reason that some people embrace polygyny, this is from, you know, your perspective, while rejecting polyandry, is because they have a worldview or a paradigm that says that that comes from what they've seen in Scripture, which seems to consider women adulteresses if they are married and have more than one man, but don't see but does not count a man to be an adulterer.
Correct.
If he is married and has more than one woman, if that woman is single.
That's correct.
Okay, so well then, just a little aside, because one thing that I've noticed is that this topic has been coming up in Black culture, African American culture lately, a lot. Just in my own interaction with different types of people and hearing different types of conversations, for some reason, it seems to be coming up a lot lately. And it could be that previous generations had these same conversations. Of course, we come from a very specific generation, but the baby boomers, the greatest generationers, and all the people before might have had, you know, different times in which they were talking about this. But question number 5 is question number 4 is, why is it a hot topic in the Black community nowadays? Do you have a view on that?
Sure. We have a problem with relationships, right? It's no matter what, no matter how we want to spin it.
I don't know if it's an innate problem, like an actual innate problem that we have, or if it's something that has been spun.
I don't believe it's innate, but because I believe we're under attack as a people, and we're actually promoted to split from one another.
Black men versus black women versus black men.
Right.
But if you're going to attack a group of people, of course you attack that.
But here's the thing. You know, women have been promoted, whether we realize it or not, to become somebody's baby mother, right? Become a popular term. And, you know, you got some women who's like, I don't want to be anybody's baby mother.
Yeah.
But the reality is that if you split in a divorce, it's a term. You going to be somebody's baby mother. But the idea is like, you want to be able to say, no, I'm not somebody's baby mother. That's my ex-husband. Yeah,
right? Exactly. Instead of a random chick having children.
Right. It's more palatable for us. So I say all of that to state that it's a hot topic for us because we have a problem with commitment. And I'm saying it because this deals with us. We have a problem with commitment. We have a problem with marriage. And we have a problem with longevity. I believe that we don't have the proper tools. We haven't been conditioned and set up to understand how to look past our problems.
I'm sorry. I have to wait. I'm sorry. My parents' generation didn't have this problem. Yeah. Their parents' generation didn't have this problem. Yeah. Their parents' generation didn't have.
How many baby mothers was in that generation?
That's the thing. I don't see many baby mothers, and I'm talking about the boomers. In terms of the numbers, right? Did not have a problem.
Right.
Their parents. So sometimes when we make these generalizations about Black people, this seems to be a recent phenomenon.
Yes, it is. But don't forget, too, amongst millennials, amongst Generation X, we stop and we look at these things and we sit and we're like, man, how did they put up with that? That's a conversation that they have. They stop and they say, oh, our mothers, we knew that there was another family across town somewhere.
That was rare. I don't think that was a common thing.
Well,
but bigamy was common.
I think that